Hi and welcome to this new video. We're going to see today how to build a deep learning computer if you are on a budget. With deep learning computer, I mean a computer that can run like the most important deep learning libraries like TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, Darknet, and many other libraries at a decent speed so that you can test the model that already exists or also you can create your own model. And I'm going to reply to the most important questions that I see on the internet when thinking about building a computer. So what GPU you need to buy, what CPU, what motherboard, and so on. This video is not about how to practically build the computer. There are many tutorials, many good tutorials about that. But I'm going to focus mostly on what components you should buy and why you should buy them, so that you can get the most value for your money when building your computer. If you're ready for this, let's start. I'm going to start here with an Excel file. It is always a good practice when you want to build a computer to have an Excel file with all the components that you need so that you can then write the exact model that you are going to buy, the price, and the link on the website where you find the best price, so that in one single page you have a clear view of everything that you are going to buy and also the total price that you are going to spend. And I'm going to share this Excel file with all the details that we will see through the video in my blog, and also on my blog you will find all the models that I'm going to talk about with more information if you want to dive deeper on what we're going to see in this video. So if you're interested to know more, I will suggest you to go on the link in the description and take a look at the blog post. Now, let's start with this. On the left side, I put all the PC components that we need to have to run the computer. So these are all the base components that must be on the computer to run. And we have the CPU, so the processor, the GPU, the graphic card, the motherboard, the RAM, PSU or power supply, the memory, and the case. And there is a specific reason why I choose this order right here. Because you need to make sure that all the components are compatible between them. So you cannot just buy first the motherboard and then put any processor or any RAM. But first we will start with the CPU. So then based on the CPU that you get, you can choose the motherboard, and based on the motherboard that you get, you can choose the RAM and so on. So this is a general explanation of why we're going to do this. And now we will see each single component one at a time. Let's start with the CPU. So when thinking about the CPU, there are two main brands that sell CPUs. One is AMD and the other one is Intel. Which one to choose and why? So there are differences between AMD and Intel, but when thinking about deep learning, the CPU, it is not really the most important component. So the CPU, we need a good CPU so that we can use the computer for our normal task, for normal usage. And so we can go and find a decent GPU for that. And in my opinion, the best value for a good budget CPU at the moment is the AMD Ryzen 5 2600. You can choose AMD or you can choose Intel. You can choose Intel i5. There are different i5 models which are similar to this one. So before focusing on Intel, we will see this AMD and we'll see the specs and the price of this CPU. So let's go on. I will go first on Amazon. I'm going to focus mostly on two websites. And of course, the websites that you pick to find the components depend on the country where you live. So I'm going to just give you general direction on what to buy, but then you should find the models, the components on the best website in your country. So let's look for AMD Ryzen 5 2600. And here we see this one, AMD Ryzen 5 2600 processor for $141. And by the way, this processor has 6 cores, 12 threads. So if you want to find some similar Intel, you should find Intel with 6 cores and 12 threads to be similar, like in performance with this AMD. So I will copy this link here so that we know that we can buy it from this link, and then price $141. So for the moment, the total price is $141. We can quickly take a look in any Intel i5, and let's see what we can get for that range. Probably this one is, I think, yeah, this one. It's similar to the AMD for $155. But by the way, in my opinion, based on price performance, AMD, especially for a budget, is better than Intel. Then let's go over. We're done with the processor, then let's go with GPU. Regarding GPUs, there are two main brands that sell dedicated graphic cards, and one is Nvidia, and then we have again AMD. While for the CPUs, you can be free to choose whether to use AMD or to use Intel. When thinking about graphic cards, there is really no questions, but Nvidia is the only way to go. And let me explain why. Nvidia has developed an architecture which is called CUDA, which gives you access to parallel computing, and that's what you need when you want to work with deep learning. So the most important deep learning libraries like TensorFlow, PyTorch, Keras, Darknet, and so on, they are all compatible with Nvidia CUDA. AMD is trying to develop an open source architecture similar to Nvidia CUDA, which is called ROCm, but still there is not much support, and the performances are not really comparable between them. So Nvidia is really far away better in performances than AMD. So Nvidia is the only way to go. So we can start writing Nvidia. Now, let's talk about Nvidia and let's understand how to choose our GPUs. So considering that the goal of this video is to build a deep learning computer on a budget, we're going to focus on what, in my opinion, are the GPUs that give you the most value for your money. On Nvidia, we have two GPU series, main series that we're going to focus on. One is the GTX and the other one is the RTX. The RTX is the newer one, the most expensive one for like computers. So we'll focus on the Nvidia GTX series. And we're going to open Amazon, and I'm going to give you some of the models that you can pick. So I will start first with the Nvidia GTX 1660. So in my opinion, this is the best graphic card for your budget to start to build your computer for like the cheapest price. And here we can see this graphic card for like $216. I see the cheapest one right here. And then for each Nvidia model, the same card is produced by different brands. And like Gigabyte, Zotac, MSI, EVGA, and so on. So I'm going to pick this one, MSI GTX 1660 for $216.95. So I'm going to put this one, and I'm also going to explain why I choose this one and what you can buy also if you want a better GPU. So this one is 216 point something, so let's say $217, $217 Nvidia GTX 1660, and now the link to buy this one. And so if we see here, we have 6 GB, and I don't see much more information about this, at least on Amazon. So to get more information about the graphic card, you should find some other website, maybe also on the NVIDIA main website. But most important when we think about the graphic card is the memory. So this one has 6 GB of memory. Why the memory? Because when you are going to build a deep learning model, like if you prepare the dataset, all the model has to be moved on the memory of the graphic card. And there is nothing like low memory, low speed, but if the graphic card cannot fit your model, you're just going to get an error and you can't work with that. So 6 GB is a good starting card if you are going to create simple models. So if you are going to train like 1000, 1500 images or a bit more, but it will be, if you're going to do something bigger than this, then probably you need a better card than this one. So one is of course the memory, but also the speed of the card is given by the number of CUDA cores that the cards have. So I'm not going to go deep into this one, but keep in mind that also except of the memory, there is also the speed of the card. So for the 6 GB, you can get, this one is at the moment the best value that you can get. Then if you want a bit better card, we have the 1070, which has 8 GB of memory, but we go already to a price of $375, which for this card it's a good price. And then the other one is the 1080 Ti, which will have 11 GB. This card it's already expensive in comparison with the other ones, but still, in my opinion, one of the best value that you can get on the market so far. For the moment, I want to keep everything on the lower budget possible, so I'm going to stick with the 1660 Nvidia card. Now, third, the motherboard. So how to pick a good motherboard? The motherboard is, for me, one of the hardest to find, mostly because you can get lost because there are so many brands, so many different types of motherboards that it's really easy to get lost. One of the most important thing that, the most important thing that we need to take into account when we choose the motherboard is that it is compatible with the CPU. So each CPU, so if you choose AMD like this one, AMD Ryzen 5 2600, you need a certain motherboard. If you choose another AMD processor, like some more advanced one like the 3600 or other processors, then probably you need a different motherboard. And so the same is if you buy Intel, you need also a complete different motherboard than the one used by AMD. So for this one, the AMD Ryzen 5, I look for many motherboards, and in my opinion, I found this one to be like a really good value motherboard, so Gigabyte Aorus Elite. And also when you're looking for motherboards, we have the ATX motherboard, which are the big one, and the mini ATX motherboards. So the difference is that on the ATX you have more slots to put more things if you need them. And so whether the mini ATX is cheaper, but the ATX gives you much more chances if you want to upgrade the computer further later. So if, for example, you want to buy to add a second graphic card, or if you want to put more hard drives or other things. So I will go with an ATX, but if you are on a budget, you can easily go with a mini ATX. And now I need to find this one, which I found before, but now I cannot find anymore. So it was Gigabyte B450 Aorus Elite. So let's see if we find it right now. So here we have this one for $109.99, new one. And this one is works with the CPU that I propose you, so the AMD 2600. So we're going to pick this one, and it is $110. So this one, AMD Aorus Elite B450 for $110. Then the RAM memory. RAM memory here, when we choose RAM memory, we need to make sure that the motherboard supports that specific RAM type. So the RAM must be, for this motherboard, DDR4, and then these are the frequency that this motherboard supports. So based on these details that we read here, we're going to look for the RAMs like DDR4. So let's see, RAM DDR4, and now how much memory you need for this. Well, usually it is suggested a minimum of 8 GB for normal usage when you use Windows with some applications. So I will suggest at least a minimum of 16 GB, because when you work with deep learning models, you need to have a lot of RAM. So 16 GB is the minimum that you need to have. The more, the better. So 16 GB DDR4. And of course we have different brands, Corsair, and different also models. Now the one that comes to my eyes is this one, Corsair, 16 GB, 2 modules of 8 GB each one, DDR4 3600 MHz for $70. So this one seems to me a really good value. So we'll pick this one, and I said $70, $70, and it's Corsair DDR4 16 GB. Now, PSU or power supply. So how to choose a power supply? The power supply depends on how powerful is your computer. So the more the components need power, so the more the power supply needs power. So to choose the power supply, you can look, for example, for how each component, how many watts each component takes. For example, I'm not sure about the AMD CPU. It can take, for example, 50 watts. The graphic card are 100 or a bit more. So for this computer, already a 500 watts power supply will be enough. But even in this case, consider just adding just a bit better power supply than this will not be so expensive, but will give you the chance to upgrade easily your computer without changing too many components. So I will go even by buying a bit more powerful PSU unit. And so we can look for PSU. Let's try with 650 watts and let's see what we find on Amazon. There are many different models, and let's also try also on this website, PSU 600 watts. And to be honest, I'm not really familiar with the brands that I am seeing. Like I don't know this one because I cannot propose the one that I use because it is not on the market anymore. There is probably not enough supply to satisfy the request, so that's why it's not on the market. But one thing that I can suggest is to never save money on the power supply, because if you use a cheap power supply, if it doesn't work well, you're going to damage all your computer just because you are saving some money on the power supply. So it's always good to see if there is this like 80 plus bronze. There is some chart which describes how to pick a power supply. So I will not go into details, but there is a chart, so I will suggest you, if you're interested, to look for the chart, but I will also put more details on my blog post. I'm trying to look some power supply around $70 budget if I can find one. So let me see if I have some link for this. Okay, I found some 600 ones. I had the link, so let's try with 600 watts and let's see. Okay, I will just go with the link that I found on my research, if still it's available. So let me copy this one from my other screen. And let's see if this one, okay, this one was yesterday $75 and it's today $85, $10 more. Just to give you an idea of how the prices are quickly changing and increasing. So I will pick this one, 600 watts power supply, 80 plus bronze, for $85. $85, and it is EVGA 600 watts, which is more than enough for the components that we have. You can also upgrade either your graphic card, either your CPU, and it will be enough, no problem. Now it's time for the memory. So I suggest for the memory to buy two different memories. One where you're going to put your OS system, and the other one where you will put where you will save your file. And this is because one, we will take the SSD or like the NVMe, which is even faster than the SSD, and then just a hard drive with a lot of memory where you can store your files. So we will go and look for NVMe. So let me open again this page, NVMe, and you can start with a minimum of 250 gigabytes, which is enough to save your OS system. And we see Silicon Power, Kingston. We have really a lot of brands, and the best value right here we see the Silicon Power for $38, 256 gigabyte. I copied this one, and of course when you buy this, you need to make sure that also your motherboard supports this type of hard drive. This one I know that supports this hard drive, the AMD, not AMD Aorus Elite, but the Gigabyte. I don't know why I wrote AMD Gigabyte Aorus Elite B450. So make sure when you read the specs of the motherboard that supports this NVMe hard drive. And NVMe 256 gigabyte for $38. And then a second one, we will look just for a normal hard drive, so hard drive, internal hard drive, 2 terabyte. So why 2 terabyte and not, if you're on a budget, just 1 terabyte? Because the difference price is so low that doesn't make any sense to buy a 1 terabyte hard drive. You're going to spend like 10% or 50% more for a 2 terabyte hard drive, and you're going to get like twice the memory. And we can see how cheap they are right now. Like we see the Seagate 2 terabyte internal hard drive for just $55. And so I'm going to copy this link and put it right here. So $55. And we have Seagate 2 terabyte hard drive. So you're going to put either Windows or Linux on this first hard drive, and then this one for the memory. Also, I will suggest to have even one more hard drive so that you can have 2 OS systems. So if you want to use Windows for your personal stuff and work, I will suggest also to have like a Linux version like Ubuntu, where you can easily work with deep learning models, because you can use deep learning on Windows, but it is really a big pain when you're going to install all the libraries. While with Linux it's so much easier that it's worth to have even like two NVMe, where on one you will put Windows, on the second one you will put Ubuntu, and when you start the computer you choose which OS system to run based on what you want to do. So I will just keep one here, but it's good to have two. I always use 2 OS system. So when I need deep learning, I use Linux. When I need to just use OpenCV or like work, different work or normal things like office work, I use Windows. And now the case. So how to choose the right case? The 2 most important goals that the case have are, one, of course, make sure that it's big enough to fit all the components that you have, so your GPU, your CPU, and all the things that you have. But also, you want to make sure that the case have a good airflow, so that it can cool down the components, especially the GPU, really well. So we can take a look at few cases right here. ATX. So ATX case is the ATX is the big motherboard, and we have an ATX motherboard. If you had a micro ATX, so you could have even a smaller case. As we have an ATX, let's find an ATX case. And here we have many different cases. I will just pick one of these. So keep in mind airflow. So airflow, it is usually you will see cases which have 3 frontal fans that take the fresh air, put the fresh air into the case, and then 1 fan at least that takes the hot air out of the case. So that's usually what you see right now. So for a really cheap price, we see this one. I'm not sure about the quality of this case. Probably it's plastic. The glass, I'm not sure if probably has a plastic glass. But if you're on a budget, well, probably in this case it's good enough. And also you need to make sure that either the fans are included or otherwise you have to buy them separately. I cannot see here if the fan pre-installed for rainbow fans. Okay, so if for this price you see fans are included, so this case for just $54 it seems a really good value case. So Montec 80X, and I said $54, and we're now at $770. All these components are good enough to run your computer, but only one last thing, because probably not everyone knows, but the Wi-Fi card is not usually included on the motherboard. So if you have motherboard, you see that the motherboard model has the Wi-Fi, then you are good to go. Otherwise, you need to buy a Wi-Fi card to add to the motherboard. So we will add an extra line right here, 8 Wi-Fi card. So Wi-Fi card, first of all, where do you place your Wi-Fi card? Well, if we take a look on our motherboard, we copy and let's open this motherboard that we've got. Let's see if I can increase the size. Okay, here we have PCI Express 16 pair, which are for the graphic cards or even other type of cards, but one usually on the motherboards we have a better one, so this is faster than this one and it's used for the graphic cards. And also you can put a second graphic card here or other cards, while we have also smaller slots like this one, PCI Express, and here usually you can put cards like the Wi-Fi card. And so we can look for Wi-Fi PCI Express card, this one. And for this there are different brands, and of course Wi-Fi, it depends on the speed that you need. You can choose different models with different speeds. I'm looking them right now for the first time, so let's see for what price and what speed we get. I'm going to open the two for this price. I'm not going to spend like $100 for Wi-Fi cards, so let's see what we get for $49 and $29, and also this one for $37. So this one is Wi-Fi and also has Bluetooth 5. And what I'm going to look for now is the speed that the Wi-Fi card has, up to 2.4 gigabytes. So I guess this it seems quite good, and also from the reviews, well, there are not many reviews. Need to install. So this one for $50, and then we had, let's see, the other one is just $30. So I guess it's okay, it's cheaper, so probably it's worse than the previous one. We see specs 750 megabytes, so it's definitely much slower than the previous one, and I'm not sure if this one probably doesn't even have the Bluetooth. Probably it doesn't. So Wi-Fi card, this one, TP-Link for $50, and we're going to add this to our Google Excel file. So Wi-Fi TP link and $50. And I need to update this one to take also this new value. So now at the end, our computer is going to cost $820 plus it depends on the website's shipping costs, so probably you can arrive to 850 or even a bit more. And this depends on the time that you choose to buy these components, because as I told you, it's not a really good time now to buy hardware. Probably prices might even increase in the next months, at least now 2020, the period that we are. I want you, these are just guidelines so that you are flexible to choose how you can improve your computer. So for example, if you have a smaller budget than this one, so if you have $600 budget, you can try to save some money, for example, on the motherboard. So instead of buying an ATX big motherboard, you can buy a mini ATX motherboard. You can save probably around $40. So you can try to find a cheaper CPU, maybe instead of for $140 for $100, so that you can match your budget. At the same time, if you have a bigger budget than this one, I will first focus on the GPU. So instead of the NVIDIA 1660 for $2017, with 6 gigabyte of RAM, this one is 6 gigabyte, you can buy either the NVIDIA GTX 1070, if I'm not wrong, was $400. So for under you're going to spend $1,000. Or the NVIDIA 1080 Ti, but the price will just go almost double than this one. I hope you found this information useful. Just use them as a guideline when you want to build your computer. If you think that there are better value components than this one, please just share them on the comments. I will be happy to hear your suggestions, and also the other viewers might be happy to see what you want to suggest. For concluding, I want to tell you that I'm working on an object detection video course, and the pre-sale which starts in just I don't know how many days, probably 13 days. It is going to be the 29th of July. The pre-sale will start and will be open till the 3rd of August. This is the chance for you to get a really cheap price for the course that will be launched the 30th of September. So if you want to be on the early birds, I will put the link on the description if you want to know more about the video course. See you in the next video.